You're listening to the Touchdown Under Podcast with Jack, Emilian, Anthony, and Ruth. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Touchdown Under Podcast. This is episode 15. I'm Jack, your host, and as always, I'm joined by Emilian.
Hey, how's it going?
Anthony.
Great to be here.
And Ruth.
Good to be back.
Now, this is episode 15, and today we have a very fun episode planned. We have our prediction episode. It's our first of two predictions episodes in the lead up to the start of the 2020 NFL season, and we are only a couple of weeks away now, boys. We're getting pretty close. Exciting times. As usual, though, we are going to kick off the episode with our news segment, and making news this week in the league was Earl Thomas, who has been released by the Baltimore Ravens after a fight broke out in practice involving him and fellow safety Chuck Clark. The Ravens have taken a significant $15 million cap hit by releasing him, but ultimately were left no other choice as his conduct was deemed detrimental to the team. The Cowboys are the frontrunners to sign Thomas, but the Texans and 49ers are the two other teams that have been linked to him so far. Emilian, did Baltimore make the right decision?
I think they did make the right decision. I think no matter how talented a player is, if the locker room atmosphere suffers from them, they need to go. And sort of similar situation to what we saw with Antonio Brown. Obviously, I don't think it's going to go that far. But I do think Earl Thomas is too good a talent for him to not be signed elsewhere. And as you said, those front-running teams of the Cowboys, Texans, and 49ers are all pretty good fits for him. It would be interesting to see, though, if he goes to the 49ers, how good their defense would be now that he'd be back with his old Legion of Boom partner, Richard Sherman. I think that'd be a very interesting dynamic there.
It would be interesting indeed. The Cardinals, Colts, Washington, Titans, Jets, and Broncos have all cancelled practice in protest of the police shooting of Jacob Blake in Wisconsin that happened a few days ago. Arif, is there any danger of the start of the NFL season being postponed due to a possible protest?
I don't think they're in any danger right now. Many of those teams, especially the Cardinals, said publicly they'd probably be back at practice in the future. But I don't think the NFL season will be impacted by this. I think it would just be more the lead up to it and all this kind of training camp stuff where they're trying to have their words spread and their voices heard.
I agree. I feel like there'll be a brief period where the players and teams speak out, but I feel like this will sort of blow over a little bit in the coming, week and a bit. But as we have seen, teams such as the Titans who have made pretty bold stands in the media recently. The Washington football team saga rolls on as the latest allegations against owner Dan Snyder and the organization include a Washington cheerleader accusing Snyder of making inappropriate sexual advances. Many female employees have also accused Snyder of asking them to perform demeaning tasks. Anthony, do you think Snyder eventually gets barred from the NFL?
I think he has to, just because if all the rumors are true, over the years, all the stuff I've heard out of the ownership of the Washington football team, I think the NFL at some point has to intervene. Like, if this rumors of the sexual assault is true, then I don't think the NFL can just stand by and do nothing. They have to intervene.
Well, an investigation is being launched into these allegations, so I feel like in due time we will find out. Obviously, we have to wait for these allegations to be proved to be factual before we can judge Snyder. That wraps up our news segment for this week, and so we're going to move on to our player predictions, and our first little section is going to be players that will boom or bust this season. Now, we have chosen 4 players, and we're going to give our thoughts on whether they are going to boom or bust in 2020. Our first player is Baker Mayfield, and I feel like he will boom this season due to the fact that the Browns have made some slight adjustments to their roster. They did pick up Austin Hooper, who is a very able tight end in the offseason. I feel like Mayfield will also benefit from the new coach in Stefanski in Cleveland. I feel like this is kind of the year that it kind of all comes together for the Browns and Mayfield.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Jack. I've been a believer of Baker Mayfield since he was drafted, and even though he had that slump last year, I really think the offense is just way too talented to not be able to get into the playoffs. You know, we've got Nick Chubb at running back, Odell and Jarvis Landry at wide receiver, and as you mentioned, Austin Hooper at tight end. I just think the offense is just way too powerful and lethal for them not to make a push deep into the playoffs. Another point I just wanted to raise about the Browns in the 2020 season, their schedule, despite being in the AFC North, they actually have quite an easy schedule. So apart from the Steelers and the Ravens, the hardest teams will have to play that aren't in the division are like the Cowboys, Eagles, Colts, and Texans, and they play a lot of easy teams in the NFC East. And it's all, especially with the as you mentioned, Jack, they got Kevin Stefanski in the offseason. They really are in a position they can really make a leap for the playoffs.
I agree, Anthony. I think that was a good point you raised about the schedule, but even more so the fact that they really have all the key position players that they need right now. They went out and got a tight end. They already had Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. from last season. I feel like Mayfield will finally get it going in his third season at the helm, and we'll start to see some of those amazing plays he made in his rookie season.
Yeah, I'm with you, boys. I think Baker Mayfield is set to boom this season. I think the key to his success in the upcoming years is definitely his connection with Odell Beckham Jr. I think the chemistry between those two needs to develop a bit more. And if that gets going, I think the Browns' offense will be one of the best in the league. Jack, you mentioned before that now he has Kevin Stefanski there. I don't think that he'll have the tension that he has had with previous head coaches in Hugh Jackson and Freddie Kitchen. So Baker Mayfield, I think this is the year for him to step up and play well.
I mentioned before that Baker Mayfield, I believe that he has a talent, no doubt. I think it's more on the Browns as a team to be able to succeed, because I think he can definitely improve his game. And I think the factor that it will get them into the playoffs is just if the team can win those confidence-boosting games, such as I mentioned before, against the Cowboys and the Eagles. Last year, when they lost to the 49ers 31-3, I think that really zapped the confidence from not only Baker Mayfield's game, but the rest of the team. And they proceeded to lose the next 3 games. So I think if they can win these important games in 2020 to get their confidence up, it will help Baker Mayfield perform and avoid missing the playoffs again.
On to our second boom or bust player, and that is Jared Goff. And I don't really think he booms or busts, but if I had to lean towards a certain side, I'd say that I'd lean towards the bust side. I think it'll be similar. I think his play will be similar to last season, where he dropped off from their Super Bowl appearance season the year before. I just don't really see how he's going to improve off last season, unless he just had some natural improvement. I can't see where he, really booms. I think teams have figured out that he is a product of the Rams' offensive system, and I think that's as far as his success goes. If he has Sean McVay by his side, then he will have that better chance of success. But on his own, he's really quite a system quarterback, and so I'm leaning towards bust for him.
I do agree with you, Jack. I think Jared Goff is a product of a good system under Sean McVay. That being said, I do think he booms this season because I think the Rams' offense as a whole is going to improve. I think now that Todd Gurley is gone and out of the picture, they're definitely dealing with a lot less troubles there. They can get more of an established running back rotation compared to last season. As well as Jared Goff, though, last season he threw 10 less touchdowns and 4 more interceptions than he did the previous year, where the Rams were the best offense in the league. So I think the Rams as a whole are still very capable, and Jared Goff can definitely play to a high standard. Maybe not where he was at in 2018, but definitely better than he was last season.
I agree with Jack. I reckon I'm not really sure if I can specifically say that he'll either boom or bust, but I'm also kind of leaning towards bust. I think in previous seasons, he was able to get out of difficult situations sometimes with an elite running back. Todd Gurley. I think that he won't have that kind of presence to bail him out anymore with those screen passes they used to have so effectively. Obviously, they're going to have a running back by committee now, but I'm not sure if that's going to gel straight away. I feel like Goff also lost some speed in his wide receiver room when Brandon Cooks was traded to the Texans. So I'm not sure how he's going to perform, but I reckon he won't get back to that Super Bowl form.
Yeah, I like the point you made about Brandon Cooks. They definitely lose a lot of speed losing him in the offseason. I think, and I also really like how you mentioned before about Todd Gurley being that player to release the pressure on the Rams throwing the ball all the time. I think having lost him, that level of production he had in 2019 versus how good he was in 2018, I think that really took a toll on his performance. But whether or not he can get back to that level of play he had in 2018, I agree with you, Jack. I don't think it will come based off the players you have around him. I think you'll have to naturally just progress and just develop himself. I don't think any of the players can make him a better player at the moment because having lost Brandon Cooks. So I feel like we'd see a similar level of production out of him as we got in 2019, in my opinion.
On to our third Bill Bust player, and that is a John Ross, wide receiver from the Bengals. And I think he is going to boom this season. And I feel like it's going to be mostly due to AJ Green's likely departure at some point, either whether that be this season or next season. I don't think he will be signing a long-term contract. So I think it really opens the door for Ross to partner with Tyler Boyd, in that Cincinnati wide receiver room. He's even though his stats have been disappointing in his 3 years in the league, his stats in the 2019 season were better than his 2018 stats. And so I feel like that's something to build on. And I don't think this is a boom or bust year. I feel like last year was the boom or bust year. And I feel like he kind of passed that test slightly with his improved output in last season. And so I feel like he's just going to improve again this season. I don't think he is going to bust.
I'm going to say bust for John Ross because he has failed to live up to the expectations that were given to him. He was the 9th overall pick in 2017, and he hasn't done nearly enough to prove he was worth it. When you pick a wide receiver that early in the NFL draft, you hope to get a lot more out of them than John Ross has done. He's also going to be having a new quarterback throwing to him. Obviously, Bengals have had quarterback issues in the recent years, but I don't think Joe Burrow is quite ready to establish such a good connection with John Ross right now. I think his focus would definitely be with AJ Green and Tyler Boyd first. So I think John Ross he has improved over the last few years, but he can't stay healthy and he just hasn't done enough. I think he's going to bust.
Yeah, I agree with you, Emilian. I think you raised a good point about having to adjust, to a new quarterback in Burrow. I just think, with what he's produced over his career and having to adjust to a new quarterback, especially having to compete with AJ Green and Tyler Boyd for the reps in that offense, I just don't see him making any notable increase in his production to prove himself worthy of being a wide receiver that should have been drafted, or perhaps lower in the draft. I think it'd be bust this season.
I agree with Jack. I think he's going to be a boom in 2020. However, he does have an issue with his contract. The Bengals declined the 5th-year option on Ross's contract, which makes him a free agent next season. So it's pivotal that he performs well in 2020, and I think he will. I think that Joe Burrow, maybe he obviously won't be his number one receiver, but he'll provide some next-level speed. Ross will provide it for Burrow, so I think that he will be a boom in 2020.
Sorry, just want to make a point there. If you said that John Ross's speed is definitely going to help Burrow. Burrow, one of his biggest weaknesses as a prospect is his arm strength. So I think that John Ross's speed is not really enough to give Joe Burrow an opportunity to make him look good. I think that John Ross definitely needs to improve his other abilities rather than just his speed because of Joe Burrow's sort of weakness in his arm strength.
I think Joe Burrow can find a way to get or find John Ross when he's open down the field. I'm not sure that's a really pertinent issue for Ross, but I definitely agree with your point, Arif, that Burrow will be able to build chemistry with Ross. I don't think he's just going to I don't think Burrow is going to think, all right, let me make a tier list of who I want to build chemistry with first. With Green likely on his way out at some point this year or next year, I feel like John Ross is a pretty integral part of this franchise despite the declining of his fifth-year option. This year is a big year for him, but I feel like he proved last year that he can contribute at NFL level. And again, I feel like he will improve even more this season. On to our last boom or bust player, and that is Tampa Bay running back Ronald Jones. And I think he booms as well. I think he'll get more opportunity this year in Tampa Bay as a kind of – because I feel like with all their passing options in Tampa Bay, they will need a bit of a change of pace situation at some point in games where they go to the running game. And I feel like Jones will start at running back for the team, and I feel like he will get more opportunity and he will boom this season.
There's no way that the Buccaneers, in my opinion, can really push for a top seed in the NFC without a solid running game. Any team pushing for a strong, to finish well in the season has to rely on a solid running game to complement the aerial attack. And the Bucs have a great aerial attack, of course. So I think it's really important that Ronald Jones does perform, and I think he will in the 2020 season. The Buccaneers, they've got LaShawn McCoy as a just in case something happens to Ronald Jones, but I think he's young. He's 23. He has a lot to prove. I think he'll definitely boom.
Sorry, Anthony, just to kind of rebut your point, I don't think a team necessarily needs a strong run game to go all the way. I mean, the Chiefs last year, they were a pass-heavy offense. They didn't rely on their run game at all, and they won the Super Bowl. They were one of the best teams in the league. I don't think the Bucs need Ronald Jones to perform at a very high level for them to succeed. That being said, I do think he booms this year. I think he's in the perfect position to succeed. There are so many weapons in the passing attack that it'll be hard for opposing defenses to focus to stop both the air attack and the run game. I think Ron Jones is definitely going to improve over his campaign last season. In regards to LaShawn McCoy, I think Bruce Arians did say that he's really there just to get a little bit of competition going between him and Ron Jones. But Ron Jones is the feature back, so he's definitely going to be getting the majority of the carries there.
I think for me, Emilian, I do agree with your point, like how the Chiefs didn't really need a running back to take him to the Super Bowl to win it. But I think the difference here with the Buccaneers compared to the Chiefs is that I think Tom Brady is like, compared to Mahomes obviously can scramble a lot more. His arm is a lot stronger than Tom Brady's is. So I feel like that run game becomes a lot more important for the Buccaneers as it is to the Chiefs because they have such a versatile and dynamic quarterback. But that being said, I do agree that teams can overcome it. So I think for the Buccaneers with Tom Brady, I think they will need to have a strong running game.
While the Chiefs, I don't think they're the Chiefs. Obviously, the Chiefs didn't really need a super strong running game. However, they did have a good running game. I mean, let's not discount that. The running game did help them. Damien Williams came up huge in that playoff series. LaShawn McCoy was helpful throughout the season for the Chiefs. So the running game definitely did help them. And they had a strong running game, which is obviously, I think, a really key part of why they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think Ronald Jones is a boom for me. I think that Bruce Arians has shown a lot of faith in him by already coming out to the media and saying this is the feature back, like you mentioned, Emilian. I think that he's already showed up in training camp. He's used his speed and agility. He's used his strengths really well, and he just needs to improve on obviously his pass catching and run blocking. But that's what they have LaShawn McCoy there to do. Bruce Arians has said that he will be most likely the third down option in the receiving back. So if that side of Ronald Jones is like his weakness, if that's already taken away from him by the signing of McCoy, there's a lot of potential here for Jones to really shine. And like you mentioned, Emilian, I mean, it's not really essential that he has to. Brady already has Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Gronkowski, OJ Howard. He's got all these targets to throw to, so it's not completely essential that they have an amazing run game.
I want to move now to our offensive and defensive rookie of the year predictions, and we're going to start with our offensive rookie of the year predictions. And my offensive rookie of the year in 2020 is wide receiver Jerry Jeudy from the Denver Broncos. He's the clear wide receiver 2 on Denver's roster going into this season, and I'm predicting him and Locke will be able to build chemistry quite quickly. And with Cortland Sutton being the number 1 option in Denver, I believe Jeudy will be able to take some matchup pressure off Sutton, and he will be the go-to guy if Sutton is locked down by opposing defensive backs. I don't think Joe Burrow will be super influential in year 1, at least not influential enough to win the award, and that's why I've gone with Jeudy here. Anthony, who is your choice?
For me, I've gone with Justin Jefferson because I think having the Vikings having departed ways with Stephon Diggs, that leaves a pretty big hole for them to fill on wide receiver. And I think Justin Jefferson's game, along with Kirk Cousins being in the prime of his career, coming off that playoff win last year, I really think this duo will be really good this season.
Emilian, who is your choice?
Alrighty, you guys have both gone with wide receivers. I've gone with a running back, and that is Clyde Edwards-Helaire for the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that he definitely benefits from being in the best offense in the league, and there's no more competition at running back now that Damian Williams has opted out of the season. So he's definitely going to take advantage of that. He's a very unique and dynamic player, and I'm very excited to see how he performs there. I also think that running back is probably the second easiest position to win this award for, and I don't see any of the quarterbacks in this draft class really stepping up and taking that award this season.
Arif, who did you choose?
It was really tempting to also pick Clyde Edwards-Helaire just based on that Damian Williams opting out. He's probably going to have heaps of opportunities to succeed. But I went with a similar theme to last season where, Kyler Murray won it, but, there were better options there in Josh Jacobs and A.J. Brown. So I'm going to go with Joe Burrow. I think even if he doesn't perform to the expectations that come with the first overall pick in his first season, I feel like he'll perform well enough to get noticed. And we know how when it comes to awards night, there's always a lot of bias around quarterbacks. So I think he will win the Offensive Rookie of the Year.
All right, on to our Defensive Rookie of the Year predictions, and I'm going to kick it off with mine, and that is Isaiah Simmons, the linebacker from the Cardinals. I think he's going to get an opportunity to play straight away, whether that be at safety or linebacker. I think he will strive at either position. We know how versatile he was coming out of Clemson. Chase Young was my other choice for Defensive Rookie of the Year, but I feel like he will attract a lot of matchup attention, and that weak Washington defense doesn't help his cause in terms of winning the award. So I feel like he will attract a few double teams during this season. Arif, who did you choose?
I went a similar route to you position-wise. There was a couple of people I was thinking about, Caleb on Chase on CJ Henderson to name a few, but I went with Patrick Queen from the Baltimore Ravens. And the reason I think Patrick Queen will win Defensive Rookie of the Year is he's going to a relatively weak linebacker group. He's going to have a lot of opportunities and snaps to perform and show what he's got. I really liked what he did in the national championship game against Clemson. He was all over the field, reminded me of Bobby Wagner, and even a linebacker that used to play at the Ravens, Ray Lewis, legendary linebacker. I feel like eventually he's going to become a stud for the Ravens, and I think he's going to start that off with Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Anthony, who do you choose?
I really like your point you raised quickly about Chase Young getting all that attention, being such a high draft pick on the defense for Washington. But I have gone with him for my Defensive Rookie of the Year pick. I think if anyone doesn't know what he's capable of, you should go watch that game he played against Wisconsin last year, where he recorded 4 sacks, and he did it on crucial downs, on 3rd and 4th downs. And I think he'll be able to replicate that in the NFL against a relatively easy opponents because Washington don't have difficult matchups in 2020. So I really think he will take the league by storm.
And you, Emilian?
For me, it was split between all three of your candidates, but I did end up going with Chase Young, and the reason for that is he is a generational talent, and he would have been a legitimate Heisman contender, to compete with Joe Burrow last season had he not been suspended for 2 games. I do agree with the point. He is going to attract some attention from a blocking perspective, Jack, but he is lining up opposite Ryan Kerrigan, so I do think he is going to get a lot of opportunities. There's also Montez Sweat there, who I think can definitely improve of his rookie campaign last season. So I think Chase Young will definitely get the opportunity to shine, and I definitely think he is going to get the Defensive Rookie of the Year award.
I agree. I think it'll be neck and neck between Young and Simmons. Now, we're going to move on to our players that will have a sophomore slump predictions, and we have chosen 2 players each. And Anthony is going to kick off with his 2 players.
For me, I've gone with Dwayne Haskins, and I know he didn't do that well in 2019 and didn't start all of his games, but especially with Alex Smith getting healthy, I feel like it's only a matter of time until Alex Smith returns and becomes a starter for Washington. I think once that happens, I don't think Dwayne Haskins will have much opportunity for Washington. That's just my prediction. I know he didn't have a great season in 2019, but I just feel like his chance to become a starter for Washington he's running out of time. The other player I've selected is Deebo Samuel. I know it's a bit controversial, but I feel like he won't be able to make the same massive impact plays as he did in 2019 as he will in 2020. I feel he'll definitely get more attention. He'll have to line up against better players like Jalen Ramsey and Jamal Adams. I feel like his ability to really make those big impact plays will be limited in 2020.
The first of my 2 sophomore slump predictions is running back Josh Jacobs from the Raiders. Teams have a lot of tape on him now, obviously, after a pretty stellar rookie campaign. It's important to remember that he's the focal point of that offense in Las Vegas now, so he's going to attract a lot of attention from defenses and linebackers, and so I feel like he will regress. It may be slight. I don't think it's going to be a massive slump by any means, but I feel like he will regress from his pretty lofty rookie campaign. And my second choice is one of yours, Anthony. It's Deebo Samuel, the 49ers wide receiver. I think coming off a broken foot, which he suffered towards the end of the offseason, it's definitely going to impact his preparation for the start of this season, and he may not even be ready for week 1. While Travis Benjamin will be sitting out the 2020 season, the 49ers brought in Tavon Austin, JJ Nelson, and drafted speed threat Brandon Ayuk at wide receiver, who will all be wanting snaps at the position. So there is going to be more competition for snaps in San Francisco. And with him being probably the top option there, he will attract matchup attention, as you said, Anthony. And I feel like he will not perform to the high standard he did in his rookie season. Emilian, who did you choose?
So for my first one, I've gone Devin White from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think he was definitely a strong player last season. He recovered 4 fumbles. He combined for 91 tackles, and he played 13 games. He got an interception as well. And I think that the Buccaneers run defense was the best in the league. And I do think as a whole it'll regress, and with that, Devin White will as well. I don't think it'll be massive, but I do think he will regress slightly this season. My second one, I've also gone with a controversial wide receiver. I've gone with A.J. Brown from the Titans. I think that the Titans altogether are going to regress slightly, and a big part of that is because I don't think A.J. Brown and Ryan Tannehill can do enough if Derrick Henry is limited by opposing defenses. So I do think that A.J. Brown is a very strong player, but I just don't think that this season he'll be able to replicate what he did last year.
Arif, who are your 2 players?
So my first player is someone that plays for the New York Giants by the name of Daniel Jones. I think that although it's not going to be a huge regression since he didn't exactly have the best rookie campaign, it will still be quite noticeable. I think that the Giants, apart from drafting Andrew Thomas in the first round, didn't give him any help at the skill positions. I think he's got the same receivers who are quite injury prone, and there's not much depth behind them. I feel like he needs more help than he's got right now, and he'll have the slump. For my second player, I've picked Max Crosby from the Raiders, and my reasoning for that is the Raiders signed quite a few players in the offseason that will be able to get to the quarterback. And he had an incredible rookie season. He surpassed expectations with his 10 sacks, and I don't think he'll get anywhere near replicating that in 2020.
Now onto our players that will have a sophomore leap, and again we've chosen two. And my two are Devin Singletary from the Buffalo Bills, who I think will get even more snaps now that Frank Gore has departed the team. I think they'll use him a lot, especially when Josh Allen is struggling to throw the ball and then to look to the run game for some help. The other guy I've chosen is Miles Sanders, another running back from the Eagles. Similar to Singletary, with Jordan Howard gone, Sanders will undoubtedly see an increase in snaps and stats. He should also flourish playing behind that pretty premier Eagles offensive line, and I'm also assuming we see a bit more out of him in the Philadelphia passing game. Emilian?
So my first choice is an obvious one. It is Kyler Murray. It does have to be said, he was incredible last season, and I think with the addition of DeAndre Hopkins and just a better team surrounding him overall, he's going to get even better. He did make some mistakes, like some obvious rookie mistakes early in the season, but as the season went on, he got really, he adapted really well to the system. He improved, he fixed his mistakes, and by the end, he was looking like a very, very strong quarterback. That's going to continue this season. For my next one, I've gone with Taylor Rapp for the safety for the Los Angeles Rams. I really like the pairing of him and John Johnson as that safety duo for the team. He's one of the most secure tacklers in the league. I think he's going to be one of the best safeties in the league soon, and this year he's going to prove it.
Anthony?
Yeah, I went with Miles Sanders as well as my first pick, like you did, Jack. I just think his rookie season was really, really good. I was really impressed with what he did. And I think the Eagles will just continue to build around what he can do, and he'll definitely be that run option for the long term. So they'll definitely, they'll adjust the playbook around him being there in the long term. And my second pick, I've gone with Greedy Williams. So for a cornerback, which was highly regarded and being selected by the Browns in the second round a couple of years ago, having recorded 47 combined tackles in his rookie season that's far below what they were expecting out of him. Although he did get injured and missed 5 weeks, including the bye, his numbers were definitely reduced because of that. I really think he'll improve in 2020.
And Arif, your choices?
So my first choice is Marquise Brown, wide receiver for the Baltimore Ravens. I think that he's going to improve vastly in 2020. And I think that's mainly because last year he was dealing with a nagging foot injury that he had from all the way back in college. And in the offseason, he's been rehabbing that. He gained 23 pounds. I think that he's going to have a massive sophomore leap. For my second player, like Emilian did, I also chose Taylor Rapp. I think similar to Brown, he had an incredible offseason, and that pairing with John Johnson, they could go into the future as one of the best safety duos in the league, and he's only going to get better from his great rookie campaign.
Now on to our players that will regress significantly, and we have each chosen one player. Anthony, who's your player?
The player I've chosen is Tom Brady. I reckon all of the facts to why he could potentially regress. I think every NFL fan knows the reasons why he could regress. He's been with the Patriots for a very, very long time. He's 43. Although they do have a really good aerial game set up for him to take over in Tampa Bay, I think his ability to, as a quarterback, to obviously throw long and scramble out of the pocket, it's really limited. And I feel like if anyone, especially at the quarterback position, is set to regress significantly, I think it'll be Tom Brady.
Arif, who's your player?
The player I chose was Michael Gallup from the Cowboys. I chose him because the Cowboys went out in the first round and got CeeDee Lamb from Oklahoma, who has amazing upside. I feel like there'll be too many mouths to feed in that Cowboy wide receiver room, and there's no way Gallup is going to reproduce a 1,107-yard season again, in my opinion.
And your player to regress, Emilian?
I've gone similar to Anthony in that my player is a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, but he's on the other side of the ball. It is Shaquille Barrett. And the reason I say that is because he had 19.5 sacks last season after many years of getting under 5 sacks a year. I think he's set for a very big slump in a way. I think he might get double-digit sacks, maybe 10 or 11, but he's not going to be anywhere near as much of a threat as he was last season because there's going to be a lot more focus on him from a blocking point of view.
And to wrap it up, my player who I think will regret significantly is quarterback Josh Allen from the Buffalo Bills. I think it is pretty obvious that he has accuracy issues. He choked in the playoff game against Houston last year, and teams will try to limit his running ability, forcing him to throw the ball more, which I'm not convinced is a very good outcome for Buffalo. He does have a tendency to overthrow receivers, and I just don't really like him as a player. On to our MVP predictions, and we're going to kick it off with the rip.
So I originally had 3 candidates for MVP: Christian McCaffrey, Russell Wilson, and Patrick Mahomes. And my MVP for 2020 is Christian McCaffrey. I've chosen him, even though he doesn't have the best players around him, but I think that's the reason why he does win MVP. I think the NFL will recognize this and finally change their personal definition of MVP to the most valuable player instead of the best player of 2020. He is the most valuable player to any team in the NFL, in my opinion, and he's going to make incredible strides, and I think he's going to perform even better than he did in 2019.
Anthony, who's your MVP?
For me, I've gone with a pretty obvious choice in Patrick Mahomes. Coming off that Super Bowl win last year, and with they haven't really lost anyone in their offense, there's no reason why he'll regress. I think Patrick Mahomes is that generational player that will just absolutely light up the field when he gets a chance. I think there's no reason why he can't replicate what he did in 2019 and 2020, in my opinion.
Emilian?
I've gone with another quarterback. I've gone with Russell Wilson. He is playing the best football of his career. Brian Schottenheimer also said that he's going to let Russell Wilson throw more, and that's definitely what he needs. I don't see anyone taking the league by storm this year like Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes have done in the past 2 years. So for me, the window is wide open for Russell Wilson to finally get the MVP award.
Now on to mine, and the reason I didn't have this guy as a sophomore leap is because I think he will win the MVP award, and that is Kyler Murray. Arizona upgraded everywhere. They upgraded wide receiver. They upgraded their offensive line. They helped him. I can't see how the upgrades they've made won't benefit Murray in 2020 and beyond. I'm predicting him to make a similar ascension as Mahomes when he won the MVP. Not the same ascension, but a similar one. And so I think he will win the MVP award in 2020. Now on to our final predictions, and that is our bold player predictions. We're going to make a bold player prediction, and mine is similar to my MVP prediction, and it is Kyler Murray will be in the top 3 in the league in passing yards and touchdowns. Emilian, what is your bold player prediction?
All right, my bold player prediction is that Devin Singletary will lead the league in rushing yards. I think he is he's set for a massive leap in terms of his playing ability. I think that he's going to get more carries, as you said, Jack, and I think he's ready to take the league by storm and establish himself as one of the best.
Arif, your prediction?
I've gone for an insanely bold player prediction today, and I think that Derrick Henry will be the second in Titans history to rush for 2,000 yards in the season. I think he'll have in excess of 350 carries, similar to Chris Johnson in 2009. I think he's going to take the league by storm. I think he's going to have one of the best seasons since I've ever been watching NFL. The Titans are going to be put on his massively huge 6'3", 250-pound shoulders, and he's going to run the rock into the end zone at least 20 times. Let's go, Titans!
You're right, Arif. That was quite the insane prediction. Now, on to you, Anthony. Wrap it up.
My bold player prediction is that Tom Brady drastically underperforms in 2020. He's unable to take the Buccaneers to win a division, and therefore he will retire at the end of the season.
That was an interesting prediction indeed, Anthony. Now, that wraps up our player predictions episode for the 2020 season. Make sure you tune in next week for a team predictions episode as we lead into the 2020 NFL season. If you haven't already, make sure you check out our Instagram. That is at touch.downunder. That is where you can find all of our podcast and non-podcast content. We post there the most regularly. We are also on Twitter at the TDU Podcast, and we premiere our podcasts on Facebook and YouTube at TouchDownUnder. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we will see you next week.